Thanks for tuning in to another episode of vKind Connects. I'm your host, Shabnam Islam. And today we have the president and CEO of Melt Organic, Scott Fischer. Now, Scott is not new to the executive C-suite. His vast experiences as CFO and COO of various organizations have helped build and grow successful companies of all sizes. And with that came the greatest business endeavor of his time, Melt Organic. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Now, before we get into the bread and butter of this interview, you see what I've been there? Yeah. I'd like to know who Scott Fischer was before Melt Organic.
It was a tale of two cities, really. Spent my career in the Silicon Valley working in high tech, which is in and of itself an exciting, energetic industry. It's worldwide. As you know, the innovation pace there was frenetic, phenomenal, and every company that was successful had to move fast to keep up and to move ahead. I think that was part of sharpening the blade a little bit and coming to the other side of the coin, which is food, things that are really, truly great for mankind, and taking that innovation from the Silicon Valley and applying it to the food side of the business.
Now, what specific professional experiences impacted the development of your company, Melt?
I've had so many great product development experiences, particularly at Xerox, where the innovation went from copiers to printers in the digital world, and the company eventually exited into a consulting group that helps other people better manage their data. And when I look at that and I look how they pivoted, I used to think of pivot as more of a four-letter word. And in fact, it's not. There is a ability to grow and be the best you can be when you look at what you have and you need to make changes to make it better. I look at butter in a very similar way. When I came on board, our consumers loved us. We had some good sales. We weren't starting to capture outside of the people who really were looking for plant-based butter. And what we were looking for is the people who were flexitarians, who ate a lot of things, but wanted to try to find things that were healthier. And what we found after talking to them, and we spent a lot of time, we spent time online, we spent time on MailChimp, we went to shows, we displayed at VegFest, and we did marathons. All these places we talked to people who were interested in health, and what we found was people wanted to make the barrier to eating healthy as low as possible. They're humans. They might be healthy-seeking humans, but they're humans. And we went back to the drawing board, and our butter came back tastier than ever with a better creaminess. And it's not our opinion. It was the opinion of a lot of consumers we did taste tests with. And so we pivoted on a product that was already out there and selling in a lot of stores. But to get to that next level, we really need to take the taste to the next level. So I think when you talk about innovation, whether it's high tech or organic foods, what you're trying to do is you're just trying to find things that the customer wants, and you find what the customer wants, and they buy it. That's what we found.
And you talk about pivoting. So let's talk about your pivot towards a plant-based lifestyle.
It was a long journey. I have always been an athlete. I ride bikes. I always have. And after 25 years in the Silicon Valley, the air miles and the travel left me less and less time to work out. Spent more and more time in restaurants. And, I finally landed here in Boise, the headquarters for Melt Organic. And I'll be honest, I was overweight. My HDL, LDL was really high. And in fact, I ended up having a heart attack. after a real successful season of racing mountain bikes when it was a shocker to me. And at that point in time, my physician suggested that I do make some wholesale changes in my life. And I went from what I thought was a healthy diet to a 100% plant-forward diet. Mm-hmm. And it was not hard. There was a lot of fun searching through Whole Foods and health food stores of many kinds, looking for things that I could replace this with that. And what I found after a couple of years is without the use of a statin, without a lot of medical intervention, I managed to drop 20 pounds. I managed to get my HDL, LDLs down into what they call the green level, which is really perfect. And I had a lot more energy, and I sold on the plant-forward diet. And along comes a company into our consulting group that asked for some help with their plant food company, and went in and met with the leadership there, and we talked a lot about the opportunities and the really amazing potential in the healthier food category. And there were a lot of things to be done. At that point in time, the company asked if I would join and help lead that sort of new beginning into how to do this bigger and better. And I accepted the CEO role. And it was out of the blue. I did not expect it. It's a little bit like serendipity. When you're interested in something and it literally saves your life, and then a company comes along that you get a chance to sort of, lead it and really make a difference in the world by making better food for people that's better for them. It's a gift. I love it, and I'm very thankful for it, and I'm excited to keep running this company forward.
That's amazing. And kind of takes over my next question, because I wanted to know, out of all the vegan products you could create or develop or invest in, why was Melt the front runner? Was it because of the offer that they offered you, or?
I think, first of all, I love the brand name. You can't buy a better brand name than Melt in the dairy section. It's in every time, if you as a consumer conjure up an image of the word melt in food, you think about cheese melting on top of a pizza. There's so many good visuals to that. And I thought that was a great foundation. The people were the next up. The people that work here are an amazing group. They're fun. They're dedicated. The work ethic here in Idaho is second to none. And it's been a real joy to sort of unchain them and let them do what they do best. So I would say that people was really a high second place on choosing a company.
I love that. And Idaho, home of the potato, but also probably one of your favorites, corn, right? So tell us about your love of corn on the cob and how this kind of just makes such a big part of your career.
Well, that was always my favorite growing up. Who doesn't like corn on the cob? And as you know, Idaho is a big agricultural state. Mm-hmm. Most of the revenue here comes from farming, a little mining and forestry, but most of it is farming. And while potato is a really well-marketed aspect of the Idaho agriculture, corn with melt butter on it was just a combination that it doesn't get any better than that. So we use that a lot in our advertising. We use that as a lot to show people that you don't have to sacrifice happiness for healthiness.
That's
you
right.
You still have all the wonderful things you love and try to find ways to eat better. So that's what we do.
I love that. So is that what Melt's greater mission is?
Indeed. We know that everyone, and especially in the United States, where we're so affluent, there's so many things that are available to us that are not available to a lot of the other population in the world. Face it, we are extremely successful, but in a way that hurts us, because the ability to buy whatever we want and literally eat whatever we want and I'm not talking about 100% of the population, but so much of the population has easy access to food.
Mhm.
That easy access encourages overeating and encourages eating things that are high in starch and high in sugar. And I think that's a key enemy. And what we're trying to do is put more healthy foods into the pipeline that are good to eat so that people find, as I said, I feel like there's a transom that you're jumping over when you decide to eat healthy. And there was a time when eating healthy was a real sacrifice, that you had to be strong, mentally strong to decide to eat right. But in so many cases now, and there are a lot of wonderful companies out there doing this, making natural food, that what we need to do as food companies is continue to hold fast to the idea that we're making things that are nutritionally better than the alternatives, and to do that in a way that is also sustainable on the earth, to use as little property as we can to do it, and to avoid things like pesticides and fertilizers and insecticides, and really make things that are good for farmers, good for the earth that the farmer uses, and also for us. And that forms a reinforcing cycle. That's what we're trying to do here, is to make food that's good for people and good for the planet. Those are easy words. They're tough to do, but we work hard on it every day.
I love that you really put a ding on sustainability, because, you know, most plant-based butters use a significant amount of palm oil, and we know the issues that we're having against climate and agricultural deforestation. But in that context, what makes Melt Organic stand apart from its plant-based competitors of the butters on the market?
Right. In the rainforest especially, there are palm plantations that are monocultured, where nothing grows there but the plant that they're seeking to harvest. That eradicates every animal or insect, and all that wonderful flora and fauna that make up an indigenous rainforest are gone. We've elected to use only rainforest certified palm oil, and that comes from the Devon family in Colombia. And if you go into, and I've been there, you go into a forest and it is a rainforest. They have found a way to include their agricultural product along with all of the other indigenous flora and fauna in the rainforest. And that diversity is what we're looking for, because it's not enough just to have plants that are capturing carbon from the atmosphere and sending out oxygen. That's all plants do that. It's what we're trying to preserve is the diversity and the number of plants out there that we don't even know are there yet. And to monoculture removes those plants from the ecological system. We want to make sure that they stay part of the system. That's a big part of it.
I love to hear so much about Melt's mission, because it warms my heart. So what strategic partnerships and initiatives is Melt a part of currently?
Oh, well, that's a really great question right now. We spent a lot of time working with companies around the world on the newest plant proteins. Proteins where minimizes the amount of water and amount of land that you have to use to bring that up. And peas and lentils are one of those crops. So you can literally grow. We talked about getting rid of monoculture, but lentils and chickpeas and peas are plants that you can grow alongside other crops like corn, where they actually benefit by exchanging nutrients between the plants, and you're able to grow more crops on a single acre than you can through monoculture. And so we found a lot of wonderful, first of all, I'll say we found a lot of wonderful companies, and all of them would be great partners. But the one we ultimately chose is Mycotechnology out of Denver, Colorado. Mm-hmm. Why are they so great? They're using peas, but they found a way to ferment peas. And fermentation is such a natural process, right? Fermentation was happening on the earth long before human beings arrived.
Mm-hmm.
And we're using the natural fermentation process from mycelial cells of a mushroom, which, what am I saying? I'm saying literally the roots of a shiitake mushroom. We throw them into a bin with the peas and water, and they ferment naturally.
Mm-hmm.
They bubble up, and they do what that does with wine or beer. It doesn't create alcohol that we can use. But what we get in the end is a pea that is got a wonderful flavor. It has a much higher biological ability to be absorbed by the human body. And it makes a wonderful, creamy, light texture that's perfect for dairy. So when we found that, we practiced a little bit with them. We talked a lot about what we wanted, what we thought consumers wanted, ergo what we wanted in a plant-based cheese. And that is something that's got a wonderful base that can be flavored with cheddar or a mozzarella or a jack through the fermentation process. And so we've started in on it, and we've formed a long-term collaboration with Mycotech, where what we're doing is we're taking their newest mushroom proteins and we're experimenting with how they work best in the dairy application. Then we cross-pollinate. We talk to them about what works best, where it could be better. They make some changes on their side. We both win. They have something that they can market to the broader plant-based dairy industry, and we get first access to some of the most wonderful plant proteins that you can find out there. So that's been a really, really great partnership.
And I love how you guys are actually focusing on expanding the plant-based dairy line. You're focusing on butter, you're going to cheeses, and you're really just establishing your brand as the plant-based dairy to go to. I mean, it's fantastic.
Brand is so important as the standard bearer for the company. When people see a product right next to the butter, the Melt organic butter that they've loved and they've bought for years, and then they see, oh, look, they've made a creamy spreadable cheese made from plants.
Yep.
It's easier. We keep talking about making it easier for people to eat healthier. So we launched something that was really great, that consumers really trust and love our butter. And we hope then that it's easier for them to take a chance and reach out and try a spreadable, which is up to twice the protein of dairy cream cheese and 20% less fat than dairy cream cheese. In all ways, it is a healthier alternative, and it is wonderfully tasty. So we use brand to help them say, I loved it here, let's try it here. And then we'll just keep tripping down the aisle. There's lots to work on. People are still looking for the best yogurt in the world. There's cottage cheese, there's ricotta, there's an endless number of things that we can do. We'll tackle them one by one.
I would love to see a vegan cottage cheese. I mean, to be honest, I didn't grow up vegan. So to be able to have these dairy-based, plant-based, dairy-style foods really does exactly what you're talking about, making it accessible and inviting to non-vegans alike. Because I think if we're really trying to impact the environment, change the health of people, we have to really target those who need us most. And those are people that are currently consuming animal-based products. And so providing a taste and a texture that makes them forget that this is something healthy for them is exactly what we need to do to make an impact. And I really appreciate your work.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the brand. Where do you actually see yourself and this company in 5 years from now?
We're going to dominate the dairy side of the aisle. We are going to have an amazingly large consumer base that is so thankful that they found dairy alternatives, and the benefit to the planet is really shocking. I might just bring this up real quick. We had an investor who was really asking some good questions about what it means to the planet when someone consumes plant butter instead of dairy butter. And for our just the sales that we'll have this year, we'll manage to save 9 million kilograms of CO2 from entering the atmosphere. One small company with our butter. So imagine if we can expand that we can really help do our part to limit the number of carbons entering the atmosphere. We know that's a big part of climate change. So I think that's the first part. But the part that hits home is when people can eat food that is, first of all, wonderful. They're not sacrificing happiness for healthiness. They're loving what they eat, and they're finding that there's less fat, there's less carbs, there's less sugar in their food, and that's what we want. We want people to eat better. I think you'll see us all over the dairy aisle, up and down the dairy aisle, and you'll see us being the most popular cheese alternative out there because we're sticking to the core. We know what our focus is, and that is making people's lives better, starting with the food right on their plate.
So tell us what led you to get involved with vKind's cooking show, Peeled, our very first ever 100% vegan competition cooking show. What made you want to stand up and be a major sponsor for us for that?
It started, believe it or not, when we found a vegan bakery in Toronto, Canada, and a young gal there had started a shop, and she was making croissants from our butter. And word was that they were the best croissants anyone had ever made from plant-based butter. And I had to find out. I called, we talked on the phone, and I asked her all about, I thought there would be more challenges using plant-based butter in cooking. And she was au contraire. In fact, she started making this recipe that she had created on her own, using some very specific processes. As you know, croissants are very detailed. The number of layers to make a really flaky croissant is important, but so are some of the other things around time and temperature. And I asked her to send me some frozen samples, and she did. And we cooked them up here, and they were absolutely astounding. That's when we knew we had to be more a part of the cooking evolution. People need to know what to do with new foods when they get them. And Peel just seemed like the perfect opportunity to start showing people the fun, the sort of the excitement and the adventure of doing things with ingredients that they'd never seen before or they weren't really familiar with. So for us, it was perfect. We have so many butter lovers already using Melt Organic as an alternative. We knew it was a perfect show to highlight that.
And if you could choose your favorite dishes to veganize on Peeled, what would they be?
Well, mac and cheese is the first one. I just found a plant-based bacon in a market of choice store. I bought it. I took it home. I can't wait to chop it up and see how that works in our Melt-based mac and cheese. So we use quinoa pasta.
Nice.
And we use our spreadable queso, and it's a beautiful spicy mac and cheese. I can't wait to introduce that to the world.
I love your excitement when you talk about food because I always feel like I'm the person that dances when I'm like, ooh, good meal.
Oh, yeah.
So we got mac and cheese on the docket.
Sorry?
So you got mac and cheese on the docket. What else would you add to veganize?
So I think that sweet potato has really not been discovered of what you can do with it. And one of my favorites is taking pistachios and whipping them up in a food processor with tomatoes and a little cumin and avocado and lemon juice. And it comes out an amazing bright green. And I use it. So instead of having, something that's not healthy, like, potatoes with ketchup, you have a sweet potato, which has got so many more nutrients in it, and an avocado dip that is it is phenomenal. And that's the kind of excitement and discovery I hope more people find, because they'll drop French fries in a heartbeat.
That's
when
right.
they start eating that. I know I did.
And did you find that you got to be more experimental with your cuisine once you started working with Melt, or after you shifted to the plant-based diet?
Well, definitely both. When I first started, I was puzzled. Again, Peeled is going to be a wonderful resource for people who are trying to discover, because it wasn't that long ago that there weren't that many recipes online. There wasn't a lot of direction for what to do. And so, vegans and vegetarians ate a lot of salads, and there's nothing wrong with the salad, but variety is the spice of life.
It is.
And you've got to find new ways to eat, because, as you know, food and cooking is it's a social event. What you do when you cook and feed other people, and the stories you get to tell, kind of brings everybody together. It's not just eating together, it's the whole experience, and being able to show people a new way of cooking, a new food. It's fun for them, it's fun for me. And that really has elevated my sense of joy in the kitchen. I never cook alone. I always make sure that everybody's around. As you know, when you have a party, the party's in the kitchen.
That's
It's
right.
always in the kitchen. So why not have a party there? And that's where all my vegan cooking starts and ends. We end up never going to the dining room. We stay in the kitchen. We eat, we cook, we laugh, we eat some more. And that kind of experience is what really has gotten me to be more and more experimental as I go, try new things, try new combinations that we're just beginning to discover. It's wonderful.
And I think you're just such a perfect match for Melt Organic, because you are warm, inviting, excited about food, and inclusive. And that's exactly what food should be about. And it seems that's exactly what the brand Melt Organic is about. And so, Scott, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today and sharing your insight and your little juicy stories. And that wraps up our show, vKind Connects. Can you believe it?
Wonderful. Shabnam, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
So for those of you at home, if you're looking for a plant-based butter that looks, cooks, and tastes just like the real thing, that is better for your health, the environment, and your taste buds, make sure to get your hands on some Melt Organic butter today. We promise you it's in a retail store near you. You don't have to go far. And to watch this vKind Connects episode with the amazing Scott Fischer, subscribe to our vKind Vibes YouTube channel. And stay connected with us on Instagram. Follow us at vKind app and download the vKind app today.
In a world where cruelty is the main entree, vKind Studios is serving up a new kind of culinary challenge. In each episode of Peeled, contestants face off to be named hottest vegan chef or get peeled into the compost. Tune in summer of 2022 as we cook up compassion. This season, color is in and cruelty is out. No plants felt pain in the making of this video.